Hello and welcome to Hidden Existence, the place where we sort of delve into those realities that are out there that we don't really see so much, that we don't maybe not aware of, but things are happening out there that we have many, many questions for and not a lot of answers. And tonight we're going to have, I can guarantee, more answers to all this stuff that's going on, because my guest is the greatest storyteller on YouTube. And Kerry, I love you. It's DIXIE CRYPTID. Cam Butner, welcome, Cam.
Thank you. I'm not the greatest storyteller, but thanks for saying that.
I think you are. I think you're a great storyteller, and I think there's a lot of people in here tonight who love your storytelling. And maybe we should just talk about that for a little bit to start with.
Okay.
How do you put your stories together? I know you do. I know you tell stories, recount people's stories for them, that you do, but you also do your own stories as well, don't you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. 95% of the stories that are uploaded on my channel are from viewers. They're written by them, and I read them almost word for word. And I've said this before, and it's caused a lot of controversy, but I'm a very visual person. I can't, how do I say this? I have to see it exactly as I'm going to read it if I'm going to do it correctly and do it well. And so I go through every story, and some people use they'll put words together differently when they write than if I was talking to you, I would understand it, but sometimes I don't quite understand what they're saying when they write it. So I'll rearrange words and make it so that a big dumb redneck can actually, pronounce the whole sentence. And so that's basically all I do. And then I'll throw it up on my screen, hit this record button, and just dive into it. And I have not read a story yet that I haven't loved. And then the stories that I write are just stories. I don't do that much anymore. I did a few in the beginning about a year and a half ago just to get the channel rolling. And they were stories that people had told me. And they may have told me the story 20 years ago, for some reason they stuck in my head. The Bigfoot stories stick in I've heard some great hunting stories, and I don't remember those, or at least I don't remember all of them, but I remember every single Bigfoot, even just passing little comments on Bigfoot, secondhand little 3-sentence stories. I remember them all. I don't know why those stick in my head, but I'll take those and expound on them and just write a good story around it. And there's a couple I've written that they're almost word for word the way that people told me. I mean, they can't be word for word as if I recorded them and transcribed the conversation, but the details are all the same. And I've just, since I was a little kid, I would sit in front of my grandparents or my dad or whoever when they would tell a story. And, you imagine a little 6-year-old kid in the summertime with no shoes on, no shirt on, sitting cross-legged in the floor listening to adults talk back and forth. They wouldn't be telling me a story, but they're telling, they're relaying events of the day or the week or their life between each other. And I would just sit there and just listen with big golf ball eyes. And so I just love stories. I love people's stories. You and I talked about that today. Everybody, our whole lives are a story. So
they are. We're living it every day. Every drama, every problem, everything we go through, we tell a story, don't we? And as I was saying, our stories aren't always true. Our stories that we tell are not always can be quite misleading, because we only have our side of that story. And I think, like with your storytelling, some people, not everyone, but we could change the way our story goes by going back and editing things we've said, things we've done, finding out why that is the way it is. And it could be really easy maybe to change the path of our stories is just writing it on a piece of paper and reading it out. So I think everyone should try that. You know, you never know. Maybe life could be that simple, that we can write the stories that we want to write, our own stories, the way we want to, if we really think about it. So that's my 2 cents on that.
No, I agree with you. That's a really good point. And it made me think while you were talking about that. When I read the stories that people send to have narrated, I imagine them sitting in front of their computer or typing on their phone and really enjoying remembering, or especially going back and reading through it and having a good sense of accomplishment, you know, that they actually were able to get it down and get it in a readable form. And I think it does give people a good sense of accomplishment, and I think they have fun doing it. I really do. And
yeah,
so
definitely. I think writing is really therapeutic, and it's much easier to put your feelings down on paper, and you know how you feel, what you want to say. I think it's good exercise for everyone to do it, and then to go back and read about what you're writing about, and you see yourself differently every day. You know, we do, don't we? We change so quickly, but the stories, the encounters, they are incredible. What's the most sort of one that the hair stands up on the back of your neck? It doesn't have to be Bigfoot, but any of the ones that you've got.
There are quite a few, and I've done so many. I never look to see how many videos I've done. I don't really keep count. We have a running marathon number, you know, like marathon. I think I'm on marathon 90 is coming up. And I call them marathons because I couldn't think of anything else to call them. I just wanted a record, you know, a number. And so I give them a title and give them a number. And then we have some stories that are just standalone, like one I did yesterday. But there are so many that some of them, you know, they don't jump back in my mind. But there are a couple. One was, and I've said this before in other interviews, was there was a
You've muted yourself, sorry.
She lived in Virginia or West Virginia, and her son, I believe, she dictated the story, and I think she wrote it down, or he wrote it down and sent it to me. And her name was Pat, and I can't remember what video it was, but it was, and it wasn't one of these spectacular Bigfoot attacks or anything like that. It's just the visual that I got while I was reading it and putting it together. And she was, apparently they lived up on a hill. She was in her early 20s and still living at home. And it was dark, and she would look out her window. I'm sure it was the summertime because corn was growing in the field across the road. She was in an elevated position, I think on a hill, and she saw 4 of these giant creatures walk out of the woods and walk down the rows of the corn, and they came towards her property. But just that visual of seeing those, you know, corn can get 6 or 7 feet tall, and they towered over it, and she could just see them in the moonlight walking through that corn. And I still have that image in my head. What would you do if you saw that? And they're coming towards your house. Well, they wind up hurting a dog, and no people were hurt or anything. And then there was one yesterday that is the video I put out yesterday that was very memorable. It's going to be one I remember for a while. It's called The Hand House. And if you haven't heard it, go check out my channel and listen to it. I'm not trying to, you know, sell my channel here, but it's a great story about a guy who, and it's a long story, and he gives a lot of really pertinent background that really builds the story, and you find out how everything happened and how all these events come full circle within a lifetime. And winds up seeing some things when he's an older man close to retirement that he saw when he was a kid that he didn't connect with Bigfoot then, but the last event that happened there totally connects it with Bigfoot. And it's just a great story, you know, and there's probably a dozen others that, and I'll be going through my channel and looking for something or another, and I'll see the thumbnail and I'll remember a story from that one or whatever. But I don't have one of these photographic how do you call it? Photographic memories where I can, where I can remember them very well. But there's some good ones.
Bomber, hi Bomber. The Hand House was excellent. I saved it to an album on here. So
cool. Cool. I love that story. Matter of fact, he and Dave and I have been emailing back and forth today. He was real happy with the way I did it, which is always the best compliment, you know. And I have the nicest audience on the planet. They're so I don't even know how to describe how sweet these people are, and we love your channel. And it's so much that sometimes I just look away. I can't read it because it's like, don't say that stuff about me, because it's like I'm not worthy. I'm not worthy. But
it's hard, isn't it? But you know that you're doing something for people, and it's that perhaps that escapism, but it has to be the right escapism for people. It has to be the right voice, the right atmosphere to take people to that place. I think Wes Germer's another one who has that ability where you listen to him, and it's quite addictive listening to those Sasquatch Chronicles. I think your stories are exactly the same, where people get familiar with you and they kind of get to know you, and that feels good. You feel like you're in a safe environment. You're sharing these personal stories that people, find it hard to share, but have done that, and you're doing it in the most respectful way. And that's a lot to be, appreciated for. So I think that's probably why you get those nice compliments.
Well, I mean, the point wasn't to, any of the people who watch my channel who are listening, I just think you're the best. I love all of those people. But to get an email from the man who wrote the story to say he was really pleased with the way I did it. And sometimes I'll listen to him again and I'll go, I shouldn't have read that sentence that way or whatever. But he was happy, and it just made my day. I've been real happy ever since I got that email from him. So
excellent.
Yeah. I just love doing this. I just have so much fun doing it. And but
and you get a good response back from it, which is the best thing as well, because whatever you're doing, it's making other people happy, and what more can you ask for? Thanks, Jamie. Jamie's just put a link, shared a link to your channel. It's in the description as well. Go and check out Dixie's channel if you don't. I mean, you guys all know it anyway. I don't even know why I need to tell you to go over there. So out of all the cryptids, out of all those things out there, we were saying this earlier, weren't we, that we hear a lot about Bigfoot, but it's the hardest thing to get a hold of, get a picture of, get a video of. But UFOs, they're another kettle of fish, aren't they? There's lots of footage.
Yes, and it goes back. I mean, for every Bigfoot story or bit of evidence, there are 100 of the UFO type stories. It's so much better documented, and I just don't think there's any denying. I was reading last week. There's so much going on in the UFO world that it's hard to keep up with. But here's the thing about that, and this is my opinion, but I don't think the Bigfoot phenomenon is going anywhere. I think, and I don't mean that in the pejorative. I don't mean that in a negative way. I just think it's been since basically 1967, and the Bigfoot thing has not advanced much at all. It's still a great topic and it's a fascinating topic. But the UFO thing is starting to break. Things are starting to happen. I mean, just in the last 2 or 3 months, the Pentagon has declassified these documents on these TikTok UFO phenomenon that, the UFOs that shadow our naval fleets and the Royal Navy's fleets. And of course, we've known about it for 2 or 3 years, but all of a sudden there's a government agency that's declassifying it and saying, yeah, it's really happening. But they will say that we don't think it's necessarily proof of extraterrestrial life or alien life, but these are objects we can't identify with, and we should take them very seriously because they're a threat to our military standing and safety and position in the world. So I think things are really starting to move. I don't think it's all going to come to light in a week or the next year or maybe even the next 10 years, but I think the flow of information is about to start picking up. It already has, and it's got me really, really interested in that. So, it's a topic that I'm really getting into. I'm really starting to become interested in those things. So, yeah, I agree with you.
I mean, I've been listening to, people talk about, they're saying there's aliens on the planet. They're already interacting. This has been happening for a long, long time now. Aliens are fighting with one another. It's so fascinating. The mutilations. What do you think all that is about?
Oh, I don't know. I haven't. That's how much time I have to really follow these topics. But I'm starting to get real deep into this UFO thing. I'm reading stuff every day, but I haven't made it to the mutilation thing.
Okay, I'll give you time to catch up.
Okay.
Before we get there. But as much as we hear all this other stuff, Bigfoot, and I know lots of people have seen Bigfoot. People are having encounters with aliens and abductee or experiencing something. Will it ever come out? I mean, are these things too scary for us to deal with? How much can the government tell us before we'll go completely, neurotic? Control is the key, isn't it? And I'm not sure they'd disclose something if it was going to freak us out, because if we thought aliens were really here, I'd be pretty freaked out. I mean, I think I don't know. This is a thing. There's so much going on.
Yeah, I don't know what the repercussions would be if they fully disclose what they know. But I will say this, I'm not a big fan of our federal government. I love my country, but it is so politicized, and it's just, I don't want to go down that road, but I'm not a big fan of either party or either state or federal governments. However, I don't think that they keep information from us. The word government is used in such a generic way. I mean, our federal government is huge. It's a behemoth of an organization, and it is made up by so many people with so many departments that it's really hard, unless you compartmentalize things like top secret weaponry and nuclear codes and things like that. Those things don't get leaked. Do you understand what I'm saying? But something like UFOs, even proof of extraterrestrial life, is something that I don't know that's that big of a deal. And I don't necessarily mistrust the government with that. I just don't think they know. And I don't think that they, the people that are paid by the government who are attached to this topic and this research. I mean, people could go back to the Project Blue Book thing. They lied to the America. It was created, it's like it's like a lying machine. It's a lying agency to try to cover up things that were unusual that they couldn't figure out. But I don't know that it's this big conspiracy to keep things from us, to keep us from freaking out, because we all have access to telescopes and we all can see these things. I mean, it's not, my wife saw some strange lights in the sky just less than a month ago. She was outside with the dogs at night and she came in and she was talking. She said, I don't know what it was, but I've never seen anything like it. There were these lights moving, up out in the star field, or, in the up against the black velvet night. So, but I think there's information coming on that. I know there are a lot of people that think they're about to break down walls on Bigfoot and all this information's about to flood out. I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think that's going to happen as fast as the UFO thing. So, and it may not be, this is what they are. They're from the planet Zambodia or whatever, but it's going to be things like, yes, like the Pentagon just released on these TikTok sightings and there's things happening now. Brazil, there are people in Brazil right now, just in the last 2 or 3 weeks, claim that there was a big UFO crash there.
Yeah, I noticed that. I saw that.
Buenos Aires, there was an episode. I'm reading about new things. And so anyway, that's a long way to say that I think that information is going to, over the next 10, 15, 20 years, is going to start trickling out and it's going to pick its pace up. And we're going to find out a lot of things that we didn't know. And I totally believe that the existence of extra unearthly life is totally possible. And my faith as a Christian does not preclude me from believing those things, because we have what God wants us to know in the scriptures, but God could have other creations out there and he could allow them to travel from. Now, there are a lot of people who think that we are the product of these other civilizations or races in outer space. I don't think that's true. They're not gods. They're part of the created universe. And so I think there's got to be something there. There's got to be something there. So
yeah.
Am I talking too much?
No, carry on. Carry on.
Just making sure.
Well, you're talking about your wife there, going out the back and seeing some lights. Well, there's things that are out there that we can't see unless we have the right equipment. And I was talking to you earlier about a channel I've been following on YouTube. Yes. I really like this guy. He's called Steve Barone. I hope I've said that the right way. I think he might be watching this. I hope he is. And I'm absolutely fascinated with the stuff that this guy's been capturing and putting on his channel. Which is called UFOs over Vegas, and I've put a link in the description. I'm going to play a clip. I asked him today if I could share the clip, and he said, yes, please. If anyone can work out what this thing is, it's a real head scratcher for him, and it is for me. I'm just going to show, it's about 7 minutes long, but I'm not going to show that one. I'll show a couple of minutes and see if you guys have ever seen anything like this before. It is pretty fascinating. So I'll stick this up now. I mean, it just goes on, changing shape, color. I've never seen anything like it.
No.
No.
No, I haven't either. And I think people are seeing these things a lot. I actually think they have for a long time. And I don't know what to make of that. I'm watching it here on the live stream, but it's just, I can't take my eyes off of it. It's mesmerizing.
Yeah, it's he uses I keep saying it wrong. I think a monocular, which is a you know, I guess a fancy binocular of some sort.
Right.
That an amazing zoom on it, and he just captures so much. I'll actually get that clip. You know, the one that I sent you. This is just a sample of some of the stuff he does. And one of them for me is when you just know this is not of this earth. There's surely we don't have technology that can do this. And why would it do this? Why would we need it to do this? But here we go. I'll show you this other one. This one in particular, what it does. There's a whole 40 odd minutes. If anyone wants to go and check that out, of all the clips he's put together, I just find it fascinating. More than Bigfoot now. Much as I love Bigfoot, but this stuff now is just something totally different.
You know, there at the end where those 4 lights were moving, and there's a string of satellites, and I think they were launched by SpaceX. I think Elon Musk. A lot of people are mistaking the lights of those satellites as UFOs, and they're not. However, I don't think that's what that was, and that's what my wife saw. She saw 4 or 5 lights, and one would move out of line and come back, and they look like stars, she said. And we'll be sitting on the couch at night, and she'll just out of the blue go, "Oh, that was just the craziest thing I've ever seen." She still talks about it, and it kind of makes me wish I had seen it. But, and you know, there are what we were speaking about earlier was the cover up or whatever, the information that our governments, I'm sure the British government is the same way, withholding from us. There are several conspiracy theories out there that this corona virus scare is something that was kind of put out here to distract us, because something so big is happening in the heavens and by the heavens, I mean in the outer space with these lights and spacecraft, to keep us inside so we don't see it. Now, I'm not
Well, there's a lot of I actually hate the word conspiracy because they are just theories. The theories are, you know, if we can't theorize about stuff, then without being, you know, called a conspiracy, it kind of puts people off what you're trying to say. But, you know, we do have these things that come out in the media and the press to distract us from, because we hear big things happening. The next thing we know, we never hear about them again.
That's right.
Where did all that go to? It's just completely disappeared from, you know, the government, whatever you want to call it, is definitely controlling the media. They don't put out what they want to put out. They're very much controlled and told what they can and can't do, and almost, you know, they're just puppets. I think, like a lot of the people in government, they're just puppets. They're just being told what to do, no matter who's up there. I think I'm probably going into conspiracies now, but you know, I think it's all laid out for us years in advance. Things that are going to happen, how things are going to change. Nothing happens overnight. They have to plan these things, and I think we are primed up a lot. We have to be primed slowly to accept these changes, and maybe something is going on now. You know, I've heard now Bill Gates might make a fortune because of all this vaccination he's suddenly discovered that we'll all have to pay for to have, unless we want to live a normal life. I don't know, but it certainly changed everything for everybody. This, some for the good, some for the bad. I think a lot of people who could really benefit from this time if they put their minds to it, because, you know, although we have governments controlling us, we actually have our own minds, and we should be able to make our own decisions and live the life we want to live without, you know, sweating for the government. And, you know, we need more control in our own lives, and we should be, things should be disclosed to us, because we're the ones paying for all this, you know, at the end of the day.
That's right.
We are, aren't we?
With our time. That's right. Every penny the federal government spends is off of our time and labor. So, yeah. And I would not necessarily say that the government controls the media in the United States. I think the media picks their favorites, and that's who they support. So it's not as free and unbiased. That's a common word these days, but it's not unbiased. It's always leaning one way or the other. So it's hard to find news sources that you can believe in and trust that they're reporting something in a balanced way. But so I don't know where this UFO thing is going, and I don't know who knows what the fallout and what the next few months are going to look like with this virus thing we've been through for 2.5 months. However, you know, you and I live in two different countries. I've looked at social media about once a day. You know, I have a Facebook page and I have a Twitter account. I just can't figure it out. But I don't think we're coming together through this pandemic. I thought it would be like 9/11. Everybody came together. I mean, you know, our countries were attacked and everybody, but we're not coming together over this. And so what you wind up having is, you know, there's a certain group of people who believe one thing, and if you don't believe what they believe and you don't think what they think, then you're just stupid. And the other people say the same thing. It's like, it's crazy. It's so insane. And it's like there's people who are on social media so upset that people are wearing masks, for instance, to go into a shopping market. And I don't think the masks are necessarily helping, but if it makes other people feel comfortable that I'm wearing a mask when I walk through, I'm glad to do it, you know? Yeah. But if you do it, then you're an idiot to some of these people. All that to say, I think we're so polarized that there's no way to know exactly I don't think we're on a path where we can see even vaguely what we're going to look like in 12 months. Economically, socially, politically, there's just no way to know. So it's kind of a spooky time, but it's really kind of an exciting time. And
Yeah.
and you're right. It's giving people a different look at life to where they can, do and try different things in their life. I'm a bit of an introvert naturally. I don't like being around a lot of people, so this is great for me. People have asked me, "What are you doing through the lockdown?" I'm like, same thing I've always done, staying away from people.
Exactly the same. I actually feel glad that I can be the way I am, and it's fine. Everyone else has to do the same. So, yeah, I think the environment as well, the wildlife, what it must be benefiting from, the seas, the skies, everywhere, and even Bigfoot. I wonder he's, feeling lonely because there's no hunters out there and people walking hikers or whatever. Who knows? But yeah, I think maybe the next stage with the UFO alien thing is, other planets out there, unless they're living in different dimensions, which is another thing I'm not sure we should go into because that's a bit too deep and heavy. But yeah, different planets. It would be daft to think that we weren't the only ones living in this universe. I mean, it's just so crazy to think we're such a small blip on the map, and there's nothing else going on out there.
I think there has to be, and it goes back to my faith. And so I'll say this, and a lot of people will get their feathers ruffled. But if you ever say, we were created by a very creative God or a creative higher being, that some people would, they would like to use that terminology, whatever. They think that it diminishes the sovereignty of that God, but I don't think it does. I think he is a very creative. I mean, look, he made us. I mean, look at the intricacies of just the human body. And, just in your, just in the little patch of dirt that's in the median in front of your house is filled with billions and billions of little microorganisms. I mean, just think of now all of that didn't come from evolution. I think it was created, and I think evolution plays a part in, animals progressing and becoming different and all. But I think we serve or not serve necessarily, but we were created by a very creative creator who I would like to think that he would have other creations out there, and we're all going to find out one day what those are. And it's the thought process, and you could take it as far as you wanted to go in your imagination, while still, for people who are following the faith, believing everything that he did give us to tell us about him in the Holy Scriptures. So I just think, I don't, how do I say this? I've known some people who are very stoic about their beliefs, and all there can't be, it can only be this, it can only be this. But I think that the possibilities are endless of what God has done and what he can do. So that's my view of it. And I don't think it has anything to do with my salvation or my, my place in my standing with God or anything like that. And he did create us with huge imaginations. He did create us to dream and think about things. And so I hope some of this information does come forward. And I hope that in my lifetime, and I'm 57, so I've just got a limited time left, but I would love to see something revealed in my lifetime. Yes, there's a planet, 40 1,000 light years away and we know it has life. Wouldn't that be spectacular? And it doesn't have to be human life. It could just be like a dog planet, a planet full of dogs. I would be happy with that. So
that would be interesting. And you talk about imagination. You know, imagination is, what is that about? You know, when you read these books, you watch films, you think, where on earth did they get the imagination to do this? But a lot of it is handed down information, isn't it? And memory is genetic, so it can be passed on. And I just wonder how far back these weird things have been happening, because they've been brought forward through imagination, great imagination. You know, watch something 20 years ago, film 20 years ago, with technology you wouldn't even dream of that we have now. Kind of lots of stuff that's been predicted that has happened and come to be. I find that all imagination a fascinating thing of where concepts come from, and where people get this, you know, these brilliant ideas.
Oh yeah, that's a great point. You know, imagination is inherited. So, some bits and pieces of knowledge and things like that. Because, like, I'll give you an example. I watched a documentary on wild turkeys. I like to hunt turkeys, and so anything that comes on the television about turkeys, I watch it. But this guy had raised a batch of turkeys from eggs, and he was studying them, and he lived with them until they left and went off on their own. Now, these turkeys, right out of the shell, already know which snakes are venomous and which snakes are harmless. And he could observe them avoiding rattlesnakes and copperheads and not paying any attention to a rat snake, for example. So if that's that way with wildlife, which is not, you know, that's an instinctive, all animals they operate on instinct, food or procreation, whatever. We don't. We're thinking, breathing, imaginative, creative humans, which part of that is stories. Stories is all part of that. But so that's a great, and I've never thought of it that way. But this alien thing, these images that people come up with of aliens, and some of those are descriptions by people who claim they've seen them. But those could very well be images that we've had for the last 2 to 3, 4,000 years that's been genetically passed on from generation to generation. And we still have these big eye, no nose, you know, teardrop shaped head type things that's kind of how we naturally think about those things. So yeah, I think that's a great point. Very interesting point.
I like your point about instinct as well, how amazing it is. You know that I like birds. I like filming birds in my garden, doing photography. And there's birds that nest in my garden. And, you know, those chicks, when they're born, they never cry when the mother leaves the nest. Now, yeah, they know they're not good. They don't want other birds to know they're there, because they will be. But how do they know that? They've just been born. The minute she gets back with the food, they're there crying, and she feeds them. The minute she leaves, silence. They wait. They know. And it's incredible. And how hard these birds work to feed their young. It's just, they're not told how to do it. This is just, you're born, like you say, you're born with this. And maybe people, like you say, born with imagination, with stuff that they never knew. How do you feel about psychics? How do you feel about people that can read other people and their minds, say, or their what they claim is maybe spirits around them?
I've never given it much thought, but just off the
I've suddenly gone to that. So it's just coming my head to go to
that's
that.
Okay. But I think so many of those have been debunked that it kind of tends to make me think that's probably less of a phenomenon than, something physical, like a being from another solar system, for instance. But I think it's possible. I think there are, there's energy that people naturally put off. There's electrical energy that we transmit to others. And I think some people are more in tune with those things. But as far as seeing into the future and things like that, I'm not sure. I'm not sure what that is. Now, some of them have been debunked and some of them have done some good work. I mean, I know that police departments will sometimes take a psychic's, what would you call it, predictions, or, whatever they tell them. Some of them will take it fairly seriously and some of it actually pans out. So I've just never given much thought to that, really. But it's, look, we live in a fantastically beautiful, unbelievable world and universe where there are things going on all around us, and all we have to do is look. Just be quiet and look at what's going around, and just let your imagination run, and you'll see things that you've never seen in your life, and you'll feel and experience things that you've never. I mean, just for me, sitting in a deer stand or being in a duck blind or standing out in a swamp early in the morning, I'm in a place nobody goes. No one goes there. No, on a 25-degree Fahrenheit morning in the middle of winter and it's rain, nobody is going to go there. And you get to see things as they happen that no one else gets to see. So the world is a spectacular, magical place. And I know we're in a fallen state. I keep going back to our faith, but still, there's a precept with our faith that there's common grace, and it's grace that God gives us with being able to see this beauty in his creation, even though it's a fallen creation. And I think we should use those things and love people and love nature and enjoy everything that we're able to see and experience. So, and maybe psychics is one of those things. I don't know.
Quite possibly. But it's good, like you say, to be mindful, I guess, every day of everything that you're doing, because it can change everything that you do as well if you put your mind into and appreciate everything that's around you. Like you say, I love going down through the woods and, sitting quiet, and you just sit and watch. And there's so much going on, life going on around you that you really don't see when you sat at home. I know it's not easy for everyone to get out, but
Right.
Really doesn't cost you. It's priceless. The things that can just really put a smile on your face and make you feel grateful for living just outside your door, literally. So got some questions. I just need to scroll up because I did lose. There was one asking about a part 2. Sorry, I can't. Who put that question up? Part 2 of a story that you're doing. Here we go. Hi, Brian. Please ask Cameron part 2 of the Georgia Outfitters going to be coming out.
Yeah, I think he's talking about the Colorado Outfitter, and I don't think he's coming back on. I've tried to, I'm not going to beg anybody to do anything, but I've given the guy 7 or 8 opportunities to come back on and tell us. And he's told me in private conversations some wild stuff that's going on at his place that was not in the interview, that was ongoing after we did the interview. But he's got things going on, and I mean, if he contacts me and says he wants to do it, I'll do it in a minute. But I just don't. I got stood up about 4 or 5 times, and I'm just not going to do that again. I'm not going to chase after somebody to do it. But I love the guy, and I think he's a great guy, but he's busy and he's got his life. And, you know, these things come and go, and he had nothing to gain to talk to me at all, monetarily, notoriety. You know, there was nothing for him to gain. Probably more so, he had a lot to lose by coming on the show, and that might be why has second thoughts every time we would schedule something. So I don't think we're going to hear from him again. But if he does, he's got my number, and if he wants to, he's a great guy. He's just a hell of a guy, and so I'd love to hear from him, but I'm just not going to count on it.
Yeah, if it's going to happen, it'll happen when he's ready.
Okay. That's right. Yeah.
Happens. Okay.
But I'm not going to chase him down. I'm not going to bug the guy. So
that's fair enough. Got one from 5 Hazel. I may have already asked you this. All world agendas aside, DIXIE CRYPTID, please tell us about the most horrific encounter you've ever narrated, please, sir.
I don't get many horrific. You know, horrific is a derivative of horror, but
I guess the most frightening encounter for someone, at the most, you know.
Yeah, there's 2, and they're actually stories that one of them was one that I put together, and the other one I actually know the guy it happened to. But one was, I'm trying to remember is that your dog?
It is. I'm just clicking it to go shut up.
Here, I want to pet your dog. One of them was.
He's not that nice. So.
One of them was Bigfoot killed my best dog. The guy who told me that story. Oh, it was. I remember when he told me, and it was recent. It was within the last couple of years, and I just was like, "Oh, you got to be kidding me!" And so, Bigfoot killed my best dog. It's one of the first videos I put out. I'm actually going to redo that one. I've been remastering some because my sound system was not really good when I first started, and I'd love to get a good narration out there of it. And the other one was, I did remaster it. I can't remember what I called it. Oh, let's see what it was. I'm going to look it up in my on my list, but it was about 2 guys turkey hunting in West Tennessee. It's the Beast of the Hatchie River. That's what it was called.
Right. Okay.
And these 2 guys.
You muted yourself.
Okay. These 2 guys are hunting, and they walk out. You know, it's dark. It's early in the morning, and they're walking to their places. They're going to split up, but they're together. And when they are just about to split up, they hear this noise running at them through the woods, and these 2 coyotes bust out of the woods in this area, and the coyotes run right between them, and they're only 7, 8, 10 feet apart, and the coyotes are actually being chased by a Bigfoot, and the Bigfoot comes, and the way the story pans out, it just scared me to death. I put myself in their shoes, and I'm like, I'm not sure I could have held back, not shooting into the woods or trying to run it off or whatever. But I know those guys were just absolutely terrified. And they went on to hunt the rest of the day. And the guy the primary protagonist in the story, he actually went on to kill a turkey that day. So that's the way turkey hunters are. They just stay after it. They just stay after them no matter what. Monsters in the woods, it doesn't matter. They just stay after them.
Oh, God. I think there was another question that came up. Let me just have a quick look. I never asked you, actually, if you've had a UFO encounter, a sighting.
Yes, I've had 2, and I actually narrated those in a video, but do you want to hear it? Or I've got one that's pretty quick. Are you interested in?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Okay, this is in one of my videos, but I'll tell you. And this is the most benign of the 2 that I've had. But after I told it in my video, I got so much feedback on it that I feel like it's probably the most meaningful, or there was more than likely something going on. But I had been working, I was in my early 20s, and I had been working late on a Friday, I think it was a Friday or Saturday. I can't remember. But I was coming home. It was about 9:30 or 10 o'clock at night from the shop. I worked in the shop, and I lived in Jackson, Tennessee, and I was going north on Old Highway 45 to my subdivision. And Jackson, I think it's Northside High School in Jackson, Tennessee is on the right as you're going north. And there was a bunch of baseball, softball games going on to the right. And I got parallel. I'm abbreviating this quite a bit for time. But I got right about even with the baseball diamonds, and the whole sky lit up like a giant fluorescent light had been flipped on. And I could see across the street. I actually pulled over because it shocked me so bad. I could see across the street. I could see license plates. I could see on cars and driveways. I could see the details of shrubbery up against the homes that sat quite a bit away from the road. I could see everything like it was better than sunlight, but it didn't look like sunlight. It looked like a fluorescent light, and it stayed on. It flickered. It seems like it flickered a couple of times, and then it stayed light. And I think I heard some kind of hum. It's hard to remember, but the light stayed on for 5 or 10 seconds, and then boom, it went out. Wow. And cars, and I actually got out of my car real quick, and I was looking around, and I thought maybe a transformer had blown, electrical transformer or something. But I looked around, and the ball games are still going on. Cars are still going by me. Like nobody saw this. And so I went back to work. We were working real hard, trying to get a job out that day or that weekend. Went back to work the next morning, and I was telling the guys during our break about what had happened. And a couple of those guys were actually at the ball game, and they're like, "Oh, we don't see anything." I said, "You didn't see that light? Everything lit up like crazy." They're like, "You're nuts, man. What were you smoking or whatever?" Well, I told that story, and afterwards I got so many comments from people saying that I should go through, being hypnotized and trying to pull out memories and stuff. And I've kind of wanted to do that. I just haven't had time, but it didn't have any lasting effect on my life. I feel like I was there the whole time. I don't think there was any lost time, and there was another one when I was younger, and maybe it was a transformer blowing. It could be debunked in 15 seconds, I'm sure. But what made it really unique to me is that nobody that I talked to noticed it. There was nothing in the newspaper. There was nothing. Of course, if it was a transformer blowing, I don't think the light would have stayed on as long as it did. It was light for, it could have been 30 seconds. I don't know, but it seems like 10 to 15 seconds. If a transformer blows, it's going to flash and it's going to stay light for a minute, and then it's going to go out. But I had so many comments on that of possibilities of what that could be, and so many people who have experienced exactly the same thing with exactly the same result. Nobody else saw it, only them. How could that happen and no one in the area not see that? So I feel like that could have been some type of paranormal, or it was UFO is what I would attach it to. But and I kind of wish it was. I would love to be able to say I saw something that really was, extraterrestrial. That would just make my day. But yeah. I can't say for sure that it was. So, and I feel kind of stupid sometimes telling that story, but it's true. It's 100% true. So
yeah, there's things that you remember that stick in you. It happened. You can't explain it, but and it stays with you. And as I said at the beginning of the show, you're left with more questions than answers.
Yeah.
You know, it's so frustrating, isn't it? And for those people who are having these Bigfoot, Dogman, abducting, I don't know how these people deal with it. You know, it must be absolutely terrifying. And I wish things were more transparent for people, because as much as we're entertained by these stories and the stuff that's going on, there's the other side to it, is whereas a lot of people are going through nightmares with this stuff. And
you know, it's funny because here's what's funny to me, and it's not funny, but I am such an inquisitive person, and there's been so many people who have complimented my channel saying, oh, you're helping so many people out. You know, that was never the intent. It was, and it's still not the intent. It's not my mission to help people, because I'm not a therapist. You know, now if telling a story, you know, helps you, makes you feel better, that's great. I'm so happy that it does, but that was never my intention, and it still isn't. But if you knew me, you know, if you lived next door to me or in the same town as me, and you brought one of those stories to me, you know, sitting across at the pub or whatever, drinking a beer, and you have PTSD, I am not the person to tell, because I'm going to go, oh my God, you got to tell me more. I want to know everything about it. And I want to feel it. You know, I want to be there with you and feel it. And I would be the worst. I would be the worst therapist to ever walk the planet, because I'm so inquisitive about people. And, so that kind of, I haven't thought about that in a while, because some people, whenever I see those comments, I think, oh, they just don't know me. They don't know. I would put them all through it again, you know? So that's right. It's probably better that I just narrate their stories and leave them alone.
Yeah.
So,
well, you know, if you are bringing some comfort to people, that's almost a byproduct of what you're doing originally. And if that is the byproduct, then it's a great thing to happen, because it doesn't, you know, some people just want to be heard. Some people just want to listen. Some people just want to relate without a big hoo-ha. And, you know, you do it in an environment that's very easy to get into and listen to. And I think that's all it is, isn't it? Is people have found a place, and same with Bigfoot Odyssey and here, and you know, a community where these people are going through crazy things, and everyone else is, and everyone can go, it's all right, because we are too. And that's the normal for us, you know, us here. So, but look, we've come up to the end of our hour. I've had a great time chatting to you tonight. I hope you've enjoyed it too.
I have. I've loved it. I was so excited when I got the email.
Yeah, I'm glad.
Let's do it again. I'm ready anytime.
Yeah, definitely. We'll have you back for sure. So everyone go and check out DIXIE CRYPTID's channel. The link is in the description. I'm sure you all know his channel and his stories. And go and check out the Shudder.
Shudder.
The Shudder, because Kerry's putting some great stories out there.
Did you say Shudder? Let's hear you say critter.
Really? Are you sure? I don't know if anyone wants me to say that word. If someone in the chat wants me to say that word, I'll say that word.
Critter.
Critter.
Critter. I'm not laughing at you. I just know the story behind it.
Critter. Yeah, I've said it. Critter. I'll say it again. Critter. So thanks again. So go and check out those channels. The Shudder, DIXIE CRYPTID. There is no The Critter, but if there was, go and check that out too. Check out Steve Baron's channel, UFO'S over Vegas. Go over there and say hi. He puts some great videos out there. I really enjoy his stuff. And I will see you all on the Researchers Report on Wednesday night. Once again, thank you, Cam. We will definitely be doing it again.
Thank you.
Take care, everyone. Good night.